These chicks is putting that thing down on you, flipping it and reversing it. And then they moving around, talking about what you about to do. Then kissing you on your forehead and calling you a Uber. This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition. Short stories, Irreconcilable Differences, Part 6. When we left off, nothing had gone the way Regina had planned. She thought that she would show up at the family complex in Denton, confront her husband and her best friend, after pretending that she'd seen the error of her ways. But her husband had turned the tables on her. She'd said that she was going to the courthouse before she came to the family complex, but she'd revealed that she hadn't done that. And with an hour left before the courthouse closed, LJ had told her that he'd follow her there to make sure the paperwork got filed. Regina's mind was completely blown. There was absolutely no part of her that had ever even considered that her husband would actually go through with this divorce. She felt like she was living in an alternative universe or the Twilight Zone, and she kept waiting for him to come to his damn senses. At this point, she was even more sure that something had to have gone down between her best friend and her husband, because otherwise, why in the hell would he let things go this far? To add insult to injury, he had told her that she no longer lived at the family complex in Denton. And to back that up, he disabled her code to the gate, had her parked in the visitor's lot, and escorted to the main house by security on a golf cart. As she drove down the highway, heading to the courthouse, she wondered to herself where the hell she was supposed to stay. There was no way under the current circumstances, with the ongoing war with the International Trafficking Organization, that LJ or the Five Families would risk her safety by having her stay at a local hotel. He was clearly still concerned about her safety, because from the time she'd landed in Texas, she'd had a caravan of security. And even on the short ride to the courthouse, they'd had security in tow. She had to wait for security to get in place and verify that everything was good before she could even park and get out of her car. And once she did, LJ was waiting for her in the lobby of the courthouse. Once again, he blew her mind. Whereas she needed to go over to the directory to figure out exactly where she needed to go, he didn't need any directions. He said, "This way, follow me." So she did. Inside the clerk of court's office, LJ held the door for her, and then he stepped to the side. The look on his face said that he was either calling her bluff or refusing to participate in this part of the process, or both, because he gave her a look like... So she proceeded to get in the line. And when she got to the counter, she made sure her voice carried throughout the room. She said, "My name is Mrs. Regina Johnson, and I need to file these signed and notarized divorce documents. If you need proof that any of these signatures are legitimate, I have my identification, and my soon-to-be ex-husband is standing over there holding the wall up." The clerk, who was a consummate professional and used to these types of shenanigans, simply said, "No, ma'am, that's not necessary." Took the papers from Regina's hand, stamped them received, and added them to the large pile of already processed documents. Regina asked, "How soon will we receive information about a court date?" The clerk asked, "Do you have legal representation? And does your husband?" Regina said, "Yes, we do." The clerk said, "Your representation will receive notification via email within 72 hours, notifying them of the first hearing date. The hearing will be 30 days from today. And if there are no points of contention, your divorce will be finalized at that hearing." Regina said, "Thank you very much," and walked off. She walked right past LJ and out the door. She had no earthly idea where she was going, but she was not going to let LJ know that. And she certainly wasn't going to ask him. When she made her way to the lobby, a soldier was waiting for her there. He said, "Miss Johnson, your personal security's pulling your car back around. I'll let you know when he's outside." Regina said, "Fine, and then what?" The soldier said, "And then he'll take you to the estate in Dallas." Regina said, "For what?" The soldier was confused. He said, "That's where you're staying, right?" And Regina was flabbergasted. At that same moment, LJ walked up. And as he proceeded to walk right past her out the front door, Regina said, "Hold on. Why is this joker under the impression that I'm staying at Angela and Stephanie's estate?" LJ said, "'Cause you are." Regina said, "Absolutely not. I prefer not to stay at the home of a traitor." LJ said, "If you want to be able to see our children while you're in Texas, then you need to be staying someplace that's safe for them to visit. And so you don't have any reason to contact me. You can arrange those visits with your mother. You should be thankful that Angela was nice enough to agree to let you stay in her guest house, despite the way you've treated her." Regina said, "That's the least she could do, considering the fact that you two have decided to..." LJ cut Regina off, saying, "This is over with. There isn't anything left for you and I to discuss. You made a decision. It's time to move on." And then he walked out the door, leaving Regina with her mouth wide open. When she pulled up outside of Angela and Stephanie's estate in Dallas, her personal guard parked her car right next to a U-Haul truck. And when she looked at the license plate, she realized it was the same U-Haul truck that had been parked in the visitor's lot at the family complex in Denton. Regina wasn't only embarrassed, she was pissed. She said, "Oh, this nigga is serious. This is not what a man does when he doesn't want to lose his damn wife." She got out of the car and stormed to the yard, where she stood and watched as the soldiers carried her personal belongings from the U-Haul to the guest house. She took her phone out of her purse and decided that it was time for her and Angela to have a conversation, whether Angela wanted to or not. But before she could make that phone call, her phone rang. And it wasn't either of the people that she wanted to talk to most. It was her mother. Mom Joyce said, "Baby, are you okay?" Regina said, "No, I'm not okay. I am standing on the lawn of Angela and Stephanie's estate in Dallas." Mom Joyce said, "I know." Regina said, "I bet you do. I'm sure you knew all about LJ and Angela's plans and let me walk into a damn ambush. Whose side are you on?" Mom Joyce said, "As always, I'm on the side of right. Right now, my main concern is your children and you. You made a decision. And from your reaction, I imagine that you had some expectation that this whole situation would work out differently. Am I right?" Regina said, "I thought that man would realize that all the years we spent together, everything that we built, was worth more than some secret that he wanted to keep with Angela. And I'm flabbergasted to discover that I was wrong. He obviously got somebody else." Because Mom Joyce said, "Lord, there you go again. When are you going to learn that everybody has a limit? That even the people who love you have the right to choose them when you won't? You have turned your family upside down. And instead of taking accountability for the choices that you made, you're trying to flip this back around on LJ and Angela." Regina said, "It started with LJ and Angela. I can agree that I did not intend for it to go this far. I thought that him seeing how serious I was," Mom Joyce said, "would make him do what you wanted, like he always does. You decided to play a game, and you've lost. And I just want to ensure that your children don't lose too. Spend time with your children and talk to your therapist." Regina said, "Spend time with my children, yes. Talk to Dr. Miranda? Absolutely not." Mom Joyce said, "Why not? She's helped you through a whole lot of things, baby." Regina said, "She's a consummate professional, but I am sure that her loyalties are going to be with her cousin." Dr. Miranda Lopez was the oldest daughter of Angela's uncle, Emmanuel Lopez. Mom Joyce said, "Everybody, including Dr. Miranda, just wants what's best for you, your children, LJ. And you know that anything you share with her, she's going to keep confidential. She's going to be neutral. And if for some reason she can't, she will certainly refer you to someone else. But you gotta start somewhere. How much time do you have before this divorce is final?" Regina said, 30 days. Mom Joyce said, "Then you have 29 days to do the work to get your mind right." Regina said, "Excuse me? This the last time I'm gonna tell you that my mind is right. The ones who need to get their minds right are LJ and Angela. What I don't understand is why you, my mother, aren't working harder to get them to tell me the damn truth. You so concerned about me and my children, but you seem to be in agreement with them that it's okay for them to keep this a secret from me." Mom Joyce said, "That's not what this is. I agree that marriage is based on trust. I believe that LJ has been trustworthy. And throughout your time together, all he's been met with is suspicion on your part, unfounded accusations, and no matter how many times he proves you wrong, you keep coming back around that same mulberry bush. So now here you are. And I'm sure you've heard the sage saying that you should be careful of what you ask for, because you just might get it." Meanwhile, over at LJ's house, at the family complex in Denton, the one person who hadn't given up on Regina and LJ's marriage was sitting in his living room trying to convince him that in an effort to save his marriage, they should just tell Regina what she wanted to know. Angela said, "LJ, at this point, neither of us have anything to lose. She's dumped you and me, so we might as well give her what she's asking for. Let the chips fall where they may." LJ said, "I ain't doing it. I decided when that whole situation happened with Agent Nisha rushing, that was going to be the last time I tried to prove my fidelity to Regina. I told her that. I suggested counseling. She said it was unnecessary. And now, here we are again. I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. God gave me another chance. I intend to spend it in peace." Angela said, and there's absolutely nothing that I can say that'll change your mind? LJ said, nah, I'm good, and I'm done. And you know me. When I'm done, Angela said, you're done. Well, I never thought I'd see the day where I had to choose between you or her. But this is your rodeo, so I'm going to keep your confidence. And if that means that this is the end of my friendship with Regina, then so be it. And then the doorbell rung. LJ checked the cameras and saw that it was Donovan. He headed to the door to let him in, and Donovan came in like a freight train. Donovan said, a little birdie told me you single. Damn, I wish that would have happened while I was single, because we could have got into some trouble together. Angela said, oh, Lord. LJ said, I'm trying to stay away from trouble. I've had quite enough of it. Donovan said, I just want you to know that these broads out here ain't like what you used to. You've been out of the game for a minute, so let me put you on. These chicks is putting that thing down on you, flipping it and reversing it. And then they moving around, talking about what you about to do. Then kissing you on your forehead and calling you a Uber. Then before you even make it home, they done blocked you. And Angela and LJ lost it. Donovan said, and that ain't just the young broads. These cougars will put you in the hospital. Angela asked, and how would you know, Mr. Happily Married Man? Donovan said, I ain't always been married. Angela said, well, thank God you are. And thank God LJ isn't ready to jump out of the pot and into the fire. Donovan said, I know damn well you don't think that this man gonna sit around and knit. The best way to get over one somebody is to get on top of another. LJ said, bro, I must have fell asleep in the car, because how the hell we get here? I just told you, my goal is a stress-free life. I got 3 kids, a business, and a temporary assignment as your sister-in-law's right hand. Speaking of which, as much as I enjoy your company, unless you have something urgent that we need to discuss, I'm gonna have to bid you farewell, because I need to talk shop with Shotty. Donovan said, no, I just came to give you some words of encouragement. Angela asked, that was words of encouragement? Donovan said, no, you know I like to play. I was serious though, but up until now, I've been minding my business. I don't like nobody in mine, so I figured I should stay out of yours. Now that all the heavy decisions have been made though, there's something that's just been pressing on my spirit. I know it's hard for y'all to take me seriously as a minister of the gospel, but don't worry about the messenger. Just hear the message. LJ said, wait a minute, let me stop you right there. I ain't never had a problem taking you seriously in any capacity. We are all multifaceted individuals trying to find our way. I don't expect for you to be perfect, and you shouldn't expect for me to be. Angela asked, do you fellas need the room? Donovan said, nah. I got a feeling you need to hear this too. After Portia's most recent shenanigans, Portia is the mentally ill woman who gave birth to Donovan's most recent child, his son Justice. Donovan continued saying, I had my mind made up that I was going to backtrack on the commitment that I'd made to getting her the help that she needed locally and co-parenting with her. Maribel and the Queen Mother had some choice words for me, and I wasn't feeling what they was kicking. But then I had a conversation with CT. He and I prayed together. And during that prayer, he mentioned the situation with Joshua and the Israelites. And when we were done, I went and read those scriptures again for myself. If you have time, review Joshua chapter 9. Long story short, though, Joshua and the elders made a binding covenant of peace with the Gibeonites. They pretended that they'd come from a distant land in order to make peace with the Israelites. God had told them in no uncertain terms not to enter into any covenants with any of the local Canaanite tribes. He told them to destroy them all. Joshua didn't consult with God before he entered that covenant. But because God honors the commitments that we make, he held them to that covenant. So much so that years later, when King Saul broke that covenant, God punished the Israelites with famine all over the land. Sometimes we enter into covenants that God hasn't sanctioned, but when we put his name on it, he holds us to it. LJ said, I know you're not trying to tell me to remain married to Regina. Donovan said, no, I wouldn't do that. I'd never advise anybody to stay in or leave a marriage, because I ain't got to live through whatever they've been through, and I ain't got to live with their decision. What I am telling you is that somewhere in the mix of all of that, there's a covenant that you made that God expects you to honor. I don't know what that is. It might be the marriage itself, because we know how God feels about marriage. Or it might be something that you vowed in that marriage, and you put God's name on it. Whether you leave or go, you're going to have to stand on that, bro. I don't know what that applies to. Then Donovan looked at Angela and said, and I don't know how that applies to your situation. I don't know if that's about something with you and Regina or something with you and my brother. What I do know is pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. And I'm gonna leave it at that and head out before I say something to ruin this poignant moment. LJ and Angela chuckled while looking at one another quizzically, because neither of them really knew what that was about, but both of them had their own separate and apart suspicions. When Donovan left, Angela asked LJ if he had any idea what Donovan was referring to. She said, I can see how that would apply to marriage. You take a vow before God. You invoke his name. That vow is really between you and God, the other person and God, and then a joint vow between the two of you and God. Yes, you say some things about what the other person can expect of you through sickness and in health, richer or poor, and all of that jazz. But when it's all said and done, LJ said, the vow is in God's name. So, look, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Regina. I don't know if till death do us part is literal or figurative, or a little bit of both. But for me, our marriage died when I accepted that I was married to a woman who, no matter what I did or what I said, would never trust me, whether I'd earned her distrust or not. We crossed the line when she involved L3, and all those years ago when we got married, we agreed that divorce wouldn't be on the table. She decided to use divorce as a pawn in a game that I never signed up to play. As far as I'm concerned, I only gave her what she asked for. So I'm not the one who broke the covenant. Angela said, I feel you, but what else could it be about? LJ said, it could be about the thing that I wanted to talk to you about. You know that we've been trying to find that fourth man. In the ongoing war between the Notorious Five Families and the International Trafficking Organization, 3 of the heads of the International Trafficking Organization have been identified and handled. Jerry Rouse was in a federal prison. Donald Green and Johnny Decker have been transported to Puerto Rico by the Five Families and handled there. But the head honcho had been yet unidentified and in the wind. So LJ said, we're pretty sure that we know who that man is. What we don't know is where that man is. And we have no idea what his next move is going to be. Angela asked LJ what on earth that had to do with a covenant between him and God as it pertained to Regina. LJ told her something that completely blew her mind. When he was done, he said, that's part of the reason why I asked if you let her stay at your estate, despite the way she handled you. I hadn't decided how I was going to handle it. I had decided to pray about it and, in the end, to defer that decision until we knew everything we needed to know. When Regina's voyage to find her father ended, she was heartbroken. And despite the fact that she was too prideful to say that, I could see it. I vowed to keep that man away from her, to run interference if at any time he decided he wanted to make contact. I kept my ear to the streets and found out that some years back, his wife died. And since she was the reason why he'd ushered Regina off of his porch that day, I figured that the only thing standing between him and a reunion of sorts with his daughter was gone. So I kept my eyes and ears open. I did periodic check-ins to make sure he was in California and there wasn't anybody digging into where Regina was or what she was doing with her life. It would not take much for somebody to make the connection between Regina and me and you and the Five Families. Angela said, you gotta tell her. LJ said, nah, I'm good. Angela said, that's your response to everything. This is serious. You have to tell her, LJ. LJ said, she need to know, but I ain't gotta be the one to tell her. I ain't got no regrets, and I'm not gonna allow her to use this as a way to weasel back into my life. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing silence. Angela said, but y'all got kids. LJ said, and her mother still lives right here. She can be our go-between. She's already agreed to. Angela said, that is not what you want. It can't be. LJ said, I want a clean break. I can honor the commitment that I made without ever saying another word to that woman. Silence speaks louder than words anyway.
I learned something about peace lately. Silence speaks louder than words anyway. Yeah. I give everybody chances, give them space in my life. But once I feel your energy, I know what ain't right. You came at me sideways, I never saw it coming. Now my vision of you changed, yeah. It's permanent, not sudden.